Simulation software selection criteria. Let's talk about how to select the best simulation software. Firstly, MOSIMTEC. We're a modeling and simulation consulting firm. We work with a range of different software tools. We happen to be partnered with SIMIO as well as AnyLogic, but we use and have experience in working with a number of other tools as well. At MOSIMTEC, we are fortunate to work across a wide range of industries. As you can see on the slide, we're very proud about the different leading companies that we've been able to work with over the years. And in helping these companies, we get involved with either consulting, helping the company build simulation software to answer a difficult question. We provide training as well. And then we provide and are capable of reselling and advising on software selection. Today, we have myself, Martin Franklin, Amy Greer, and Nate Ivey that will talk to you about software selection. Between us, a wide range of experiences. We've all been in the simulation field for quite a number of years, for 17 plus years, doing simulation across a different number of industries.
So one of the questions we get a lot from customers and just colleagues in different organizations is, well, what's the best simulation software? Unfortunately, there's not one answer. On the left side of the screen, you'll see several different general purpose simulation tools. These are actually the companies that are exhibiting at WinterSim 2020. So this isn't even an exhaustive list of the tools that are out there. There are free tools. There's some tools that may be more focused on academic. There's some tools that may be very focused on a particular industry or problem type. So there are a lot of different tools out there. They all have different strengths and weaknesses. On the right side, there are some different sources where you can go out and see software reviews of these tools. But you got to be careful with some of these sites because a lot of times the software vendor will answer their own questions. And of course, they're going to say, yes, my tool is easy to use, or yes, my tool runs faster than anyone else's. And you also need to be careful because somebody's idea of what's a good tool is very subjective based on the industry they're in, the experiences they've had. Did they have to learn this tool on their own, or did they have someone really helping them and guiding them? So there's a lot of different tools out there. There's a lot of conflicting information out there as well as in terms of what's a good tool and what's not. So, one of the things we wanted to talk about today is just the different ways we help our clients and our contacts kind of navigate the different tools that are out there.
So at a high level, this is a list of the some of the considerations that most of our customers, as well as anyone getting into simulation, would take a look into. And some of these are the obvious ones, like budget, but things like experience. What is the experience of your team? What are you hoping to do? Deployment, and how you plan to run and build those models, as well as your requirements for what are you looking for in your simulation package. These are all the high-level concerns that we're going to address further in the presentation. So, looking, one of the first things that comes to everyone's mind is what does that cost to buy that software package? But really, looking at the total cost of ownership is something that should be done for every tool that you're considering. That considers, how are you going to license it? Does the software allow you to have multiple users sharing a license across a server? And is there a different cost for that? Do you have a single node license? It's a named user that can be used on one machine. Additionally, do you need to have everyone be a developer, or can you get away with running on a runtime version? Cost of maintenance. Some software packages included in that first year when you purchase it. Some it's an additional cost. And then also, what do you get with that maintenance as you decide to, if you decide to continue it after the initial period? Is training included? Again, different companies provide training with part of their package. Some that's an add-on cost. An additional consideration, some add-ons. Some software comes with optimization tools such as OpQuest that can help optimize the system and find the best answer. There's also scenario management tools that may or may not be included as part of the base software package, as well as distribution fitting tools. Some software comes with a distribution fitting tool where you can take historical data, fit your distributions. In other cases, you might buy a third-party tool to do that. Tech support as well as another consideration. What level of tech support does that software packages team provide? Is it merely on setting up your software and getting it to run, or do they provide a little bit more in terms of helping find and debug models in case you have some issues? Two other considerations you want to look at: training. Again, we mentioned that, but can you also get some consulting that is either a team of dedicated professionals that can help you build your first model or build your first model for you? Or are you looking to build that expertise, and can you find someone to help you kind of walk through that model hand by hand, make those decisions on design choices? So each of the software packages that you look into will include a variety of these different items in their base pricing, as well as add-ons to be able to get to it. But they're all considerations when looking at the total cost of ownership.
So I think a lot of the things we've talked about so far, most of our clients, know, oh, I got to ask about cost, I got to ask about training. Even though, as Nate and Martin were mentioning, the total cost calculation is really not that straightforward. You've got to be very careful to make sure you're comparing apples to apples when you get a quote from somebody. But once we kind of go through that high level checklist, a lot of what we want to talk to our clients about next is really how they're going to be using the tool, because a lot of those cost factors are very nuanced depending on how you're going to use the tool. So we're going to go through some of the questions that we would work with a client on answering, and kind of talk about why these questions are important when you're selecting your software package. One of the first questions I might ask somebody is, are you going to have a dedicated team that's building models day in, day out? Or are you going to have an industrial engineer or someone else that's going to build a model from time to time in addition to their day job? This is a really important question, because if you have someone that's just doing modeling every once in a while, you're going to need a tool that's really simple to learn, really easy to pick up. We're also going to need to be a little bit honest with ourselves that you may not be able to build the most advanced tools and solve the hardest problems. But if you go out and you purchase a tool that has a really steep learning curve and can do everything and has a ton of flexibility, you might not have time to learn that tool. So this is a really important question that we want to talk with our clients about and really understand what that department's going to look like, and how they plan to use modeling internally.
I would add to that as well, a close match here is turnover in your employee, be it in your specific industry or your specific department. There might be move of employees both into and out of the organization, but it could just be employees passing through the department and moving on to other roles within the company. That turnover and continued training impact / the complexity of the tool that you're using will also then have an impact at this specific bullet.
Another big question, obviously, we're going to ask our customers is, well, what do you plan to model with this? Do you need a tool that maybe you can model a call center and a customer-facing service component along with manufacturing? Or are you going to only be modeling pedestrians? Are you only going to be modeling conveyors? So I think just discussing with our customers exactly what systems they're going to be modeling. We want to make sure either the tool is a specific tool for that area, or at least has the libraries to support that area. Some of the other, considerations when we're talking about what systems will you be modeling is really just run speeds as well. Making sure that if you're really going to get heavy into evaluating control logic, that you have a tool that can very easily allow you to build out control logic algorithms and test those.
I think you brought up a good point about being able to model control logic, and I think that's one of the things as you look into your company and into your use of simulation. Are you good with that, a specific higher level model, or do you really need to get down into building maybe at a lower level? So several of these packages will offer different levels of modeling abstraction where you can really build at a high, a basic kind of a flow charting type level or a flow view, or you can go down into to build into the lower level constructs that give you a lot more flexibility. They might have a little bit higher learning curve, but they allow you to get a lot more detailed into your decision logic that you would be using to model your systems.
Yeah, I think to add there, another viewpoint is what we term whole systems modeling. So a lot of times these industry-specific off-the-shelf tools, be it for a mining system or for chemical process or supply chain, where it might be very, very, very specific to a piece of equipment or to that system, it might not actually be able to represent sort of, again, what we term as a whole systems modeling, where you want to understand, if I make changes in this area, what impact does it have on the complete system that I'm modeling? And obviously, using a more general application and customizing that tool or that system that's represented in there to represent your whole system, you'll be able to do that, as opposed to using the industry-specific one, which might be there to just answer a specific detailed question about a system.
So one of the next questions is the concept of our clients have a mega model that they're really concerned with. So we see this a lot of times with clients will come in and they'll say, we've got this massive investment going on. We absolutely need this model in the next 4 months. But, oh, by the way, this is a good opportunity for us to get simulation in-house. I really want to understand if a client has one of these mega models, because we need that project to be successful. And I would actually say, if you have that high pressure, big model that you need to get done, just make sure you're getting the right tool for that model. If you're successful, you can always go back later and really reevaluate your long-term needs with simulation. But you can't afford to have that first big simulation project fail. So this would definitely be a model that I would say focus on getting that one right. Maybe you use one tool for that model. Maybe you use a consultant's help for that model. And then you can always go back later and talk about the secondary, long-term vision of growing an internal simulation practice.
And I want to add to that. I think that's a great point. And when I saw this idea of this mega model, that is frequently when I've been on the other side of the table, where I've been the customer or the model builder for a specific a company that I'm working for, and I'm looking at this mega model. I look back to that. What am I trying to do with that employee? What is the employees that I have slated to build this model, and that turnover rate? Am I going to be able to get somebody up to speed to build a mega model on their first try, or do I have that the ability to get someone up to speed on if we have turnover? So I think this mega model question really applies to all of the other pieces of your decision, because like you said, sometimes that first model, there's so much riding on it, and you want to be successful that you might want to look to either getting some outside help, whether it be a full-on someone building the complete project, or at a minimum, someone helping you walk through how do you architect the model and walk you through some of those more challenging pieces of building that control logic in your system.
Another consideration is, will you have a modeler that's building the model, running the analysis, generating recommendations, or are you going to have someone that's a modeler / programmer who's building a model and delivering a tool for other people in your company to use? When I was at the American Red Cross, I developed several blood drive models that we could give out to the regions, and we were able to distribute those over our SharePoint sites. I had to make sure that people could run those models without having to install extra software on their computers, and there wasn't additional licensing cost. Because if we had to incur a license for every single one of our users that wanted to run that model, it just would have been cost prohibitive for the Red Cross. So I also had to make sure that I could deliver models that did not require a lot of IT resources to get those models installed. So I think when you're delivering a model for other people to use, there's a lot of just technical IT considerations. There's also soft side. If I deliver a model, can it be set up in such a way that it's easy for other people to use? Or are they going to have to go through a lot of training just to hit the run button and run the model? So this is always a big one that we really want to talk with our clients in terms of what they're looking for when they bring modeling in-house.
That deployment, not necessarily the actual use in terms of analysis or recommendations, but the actual deployment of it as well. Will it be integrated? Will it be used for some operational decisions as opposed to just a disconnected or offline design decision?
So another question we always have is, are you going to have multiple modelers in your organization? I think a high risk of doing modeling in-house is a lot of companies think, well, I'm going to have this person, they're very smart, they're going to be my simulation go-to. And if the person's really smart, chances are they're going to move on to other things within a couple years. So it's really hard to do this in-house if you just are going to plan on having one single person do it. So I think when we're helping someone pick out their software platform, we're also talking to them about how they're going to set up their entire department. And one of those questions, do you have multiple people that can do it? If you do, we really want to consider the server licenses. That could be a big driver of cost. You need one license that people can share. Are you going to need multiple licenses? But then the training also becomes a question. If you think you're going to have a lot of turnover, you're going to have multiple people every year that need to go through this training. This would be a really important thing to discuss with our customers.
Yeah, I would add to that another close one there is, especially once you have multiple modelers, you might have, especially on larger projects, multiple modelers working on the same project. So also look into these tools, object-oriented modeling, look into their capabilities for source control, for actually check in and check out of code, such that you can have modelers, multiple modelers work on one project. By definition, one will have to divide and conquer and share and coordinate that modeling, but that's another factor to look into.
So the other big one, a lot of times our customers really love the animation capabilities of a tool. All of the software platforms that we use have 3D animation capabilities. We don't always use them on every model, but the capabilities are there. So I think a lot of times we need to understand, is your primary goal the animation, or is your primary goal the analytics and the animation is a nice to have? Because some of these tools are just easier to set up the animation. So it goes down to how much time do you want to put into animation project after project.
Is there one other consideration we didn't mention, but it's, if you have experience already, someone with experience with an existing software package, that should be a big consideration. If it's been working for you in the past, you don't necessarily need to move on to a different software package to meet your needs.
Yeah, I'd agree. I've had lots of friends that reach out on LinkedIn, and one of the first things I say is, hey, check with your IT department because you might already have something.
So just in wrapping up, as we discussed, really I think the requirements should drive your software selection. Look at your experiences within the firm. Look at what questions you're trying to answer. Look at obviously consideration of budget. Really be realistic about what and how your organization is planning to use simulation. One tool will not always check all the boxes. So be open to maybe eventually, not initially, but eventually having more than one tool in your toolbox. Also, be open to using outside help. Again, you can really get out of the starting block much faster by using professional help to get your models going. And then if you are looking at building an internal practice, you can use that reference model as a good baseline for building and learning how to do simulation in a best practices method. Like we discussed in detail earlier, again, it's not just a sticker price. It's really consideration of the total cost of ownership, the cost of the licensing, different licensing models, the hardware and the infrastructure that might be required to run that model, and then maintenance and continued maintenance around that, as well as some of the side costs in terms of training and consulting. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about software selection. We'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. If you want to reach us and learn more about our company, discuss software selection in more detail, come and visit us today at our virtual exhibit booth, or visit our website, mosimtec.com. Thank you.